As I mentioned, you started a wire service. You worked in print journalism. You worked in TV. You've been an author. Talk about what's rewarding of those careers. Is one of those careers really the preeminent one for you, or all of them rewarding?
All extremely rewarding. All, a lifelong education. As I told the students just a little while ago, you know that when you're a journalist, you have a front row seat to history. You know that you're going to learn every single day. You're going to be a little bit smarter when you go to sleep at night than you were when you woke up in the morning because you've absorbed more information. They pay you to ask tough questions to newsmakers, to world leaders, and to get a lifelong education. So whether you're in print or broadcast or whatever, it's just a fabulous, fabulous career, and I've loved every minute of it. It's been great. So you raised the issue. I had to be prepared to say, you make a serious accusation against the man who wants to be president of the United States, you have to back it up. And what I learned from that experience, and I'd learned it earlier, but it reaffirmed to me, is that you go into an interview or a debate well prepared, you stand your ground, and you don't let the interviewee or the candidate in this particular case bully you, and you don't back down in the face of that kind of exchange. And at one point, even when I was with my staff that same day, I said to some smart kid who works for me, I said, "You're Newt Gingrich. You're going to turn this question around and make me look like a jerk. Let's go. Let's get it on." And you know what was really interesting? We did that, and it was very, very similar to what happened there. And so, as much as people say, "Hey, you were very fast on your feet. You really knew what you were doing." You know what? It's preparation. It's hard work, and it takes a lot of time to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's cut to the chase. Donald Trump. You made a little news this week.
Yeah.
Had a little fun. Want to tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. I've been interviewing Donald Trump for 20 years, and I've known him, a lot. And my instinct was not to talk to him on that day, but it was a newsworthy event. He was the host of a fundraiser at his hotel in Las Vegas on the night that Mitt Romney was going to go over the top, 1,144 delegates to the Republican convention in Tampa at the end of August. And he was going to be hosting this event. And earlier that morning, he had been on CNBC, and he said, many people know the birth certificate that the state of Hawaii has authorized is a forgery, is not authentic, and all this. And I said, I said to myself, after seeing the CNBC interview that morning, I said, why is he doing this on the day that Romney is going to go over the top and history is about to be made? The first Mormon who is going to be the nominee of a major presidential party. It's going to be a significant event. And so we had a discussion in my office at around 10:30 that morning with my senior producers and my bookers, and we went around the table. Should I interview Trump that day? Should I not? And there were pros and cons, and people said, George Will called him a bloviating, whatever, ignoramus on Sunday, and so we went back and forth, and I said, you know what, let's talk to him, because I don't know why he's doubling down on this birther issue. It didn't make any sense to me, since all the evidence was so specific that he was born in Honolulu in 1961, and there's a birth certificate. And the state of Hawaii, first Linda Lingle, the Republican governor, authorized it, said it was authentic. Then the Democratic governor now says it's authentic. All of the people who work at the bureau there that releases birth certificates, they said it's authentic. So I didn't understand why he was doubling down on this. So I told my producer, call up his person, and we'll do the interview. So she came into my office. She had her cell phone. She said, I'm speaking to his public relations person. You want to talk to him? I said, okay, sure, I'll talk to him. I spoke to him. I said, I think it's a good day for us to do this interview. He then puts me on the phone with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's in his hotel room at the Trump Hotel in Vegas. And I said, Donald, I think it's a good day. It's, you're going to be hosting this event tonight. Let's talk about it. And I didn't say what we're going to talk about. I didn't say anything about we're just going to talk about jobs or the economy or Afghanistan or OPEC or China, or the birther issue. I just said, let's do an interview. And most of the discussion I had with him was whether he would do the interview on camera or just on the phone. I really wanted him to do it on camera. He didn't want to do it on camera, so we just did it on the phone. And we did it live at 4 o'clock Eastern. And I assumed that, we would do a question or two on the birther thing, and we'd move on to some other stuff. But when the show started at 4 o'clock, I don't know if you were watching, 1 o'clock local time, Jim Acosta, our senior political correspondent, did a whole report about Trump upstaging, Romney on this big historic day and all that. And so as soon as I said, Jim Acosta, thanks very much. Now joining us on the phone is Donald Trump. And I said, Donald, thanks for coming in. And he immediately didn't say, you're welcome, or thank you. Or he immediately said,
no, he certainly
he said, that was a terrible report, and there's factual inaccuracies, and I hated it, or whatever. That was no way to introduce me with that report. And I said, well, go ahead and tell me what was wrong with it. He said, it was just bad. And he was all upset about it. And we went into this whole discussion about, why is he doubling down on the birth certificate, the birther issue. And he insisted that he was right, and everybody else basically was wrong. And, we went back and forth, and I showed the birth certificate that was released by the state of Hawaii. I pointed out to him that Mitt Romney accepts he was born in Hawaii, that all the other Republican presidential candidates, Newt Gingrich, and Santorum, and Rick Perry, and all of them accepted it. Karl Rove, who runs the biggest pro-Republican super PAC, he accepts that the president was born in Hawaii. So why are you, well, many people think it's a forgery, and I pressed him. I said, well, who are those many people? And he said, many people. And I said, name one person in a position of authority in Hawaii who says it's a forgery. I'm not naming names, he said. And so we went back and forth, and it got heated. And at one point, I said to him, well, take a look. It's not just the birth certificate. In 1961, when he was born, contemporaneously, within a few days of his birth, two, not one, two Honolulu daily newspapers published the announcements of his birth. And I said to him, so the conspiracy started in 1961? And I didn't say this on the air, but I said to myself, yes, 1961, those of us old enough to remember 1961, a biracial baby boy is born in Honolulu. And his parents say, he's really born in Kenya, but let's say, the parents, maybe one day he'll be president of the United States. So let's put announcements in the Honolulu newspapers that he was born in Honolulu, because even though he was born in Kenya, maybe, someday he'll grow up and be president of the United States. That's possible. That's a conspiratorial theory. And we had done a lot of reporting, CNN, over the past few years on this whole birther controversy. One of our reporters, Gary Tuckman, had gone to Honolulu, spent time there, and went to these two Honolulu newspapers. And I put up on the screen, I showed the birth announcements of the Barack Hussein Obama in Honolulu, in both of these two newspapers in Honolulu. And Gary Tuckman went to the old-timers there and said, well, the conspiratorial theorists say you could phone in an announcement from any place, as if phone calls from Kenya to Honolulu, were okay. You could phone in an announcement and just make it up. And they pointed out, and we reported this. In those days, in 1961, you couldn't. The newspapers got the announcements of the births from the hospitals in Honolulu directly. It wasn't as if you could just phone in. And so, that was pretty strong evidence to me that he was born in Honolulu. At one point, the interview got a little testy when I said to Donald, you're beginning to sound a little ridiculous. And he said, no, you're beginning to sound a little. And he didn't back down. And it was just, one of those interviews that, stuff happens. And as I say, I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know why he's refusing to back down. After they released the authentic, long-form birth certificate, I thought the whole story was over with, but there are people out there to this day who send me hate mail and tweets. You're gullible. He's not an American, and all this kind of stuff. So, what can you do?
There's been a sort of conventional wisdom of this campaign from the very beginning that it would be decided on the economy. But at this point in 2008, the conventional wisdom suggested that the war in Iraq might be the deciding issue. It turned out really not to be. Do you see surprises on the horizon, or are you among
Here's what I see happening over the next 5 months between now and November 6th. I think if you take a look at almost all of the polls that we have, the country is very evenly divided right now. I would guess 45% of the American eligible voters out there, registered voters, 45% are almost certainly going to vote for President Obama's reelection, and 45% are almost certainly going to vote for Mitt Romney. So that's 90%, basically more or less taken. Very few of them are going to be changing their minds. People who have made up their minds pretty much know what they're going to do. There's about 10% out there, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, independents, who haven't made up their minds or are really open to changing their minds and could change their minds over the next 5 months. If you take a look at that 10%, forget about New York State, that's going to go for Obama. Forget about California, that's going to go for Obama. Forget about Texas, that's going to go for Romney. There are a lot of states that we know are not going to be in play. The people in those states have already made up their minds. Those of you who live in California, you're not going to get hundreds of millions of dollars in ad revenues for these negative ads because the Democrats are not going to waste their money trying to influence voters in California on the presidential race, and the Republicans aren't going to waste their money in California. They will spend a ton of money in Florida, Ohio, probably Michigan, Pennsylvania, maybe not Michigan, but some of these battleground states, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, probably Arizona. There are about 10 or 12 battleground states. And they're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. And then the super PACs will spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, probably both sides, each side $1 billion between now and November 6th in attack ads in these 10 or 12 states that are really up for grabs. And they will determine in these states, who's going to get 270 electoral votes. It's not that complicated. And it's going to be a fierce, fierce battle. It's going to get intense, and it's going to be very ugly because even though I think the two campaigns, the Obama campaign and the Obama campaign, will be relatively substantive and not too nasty, the super PACs on the outside, they'll be getting really, really negative, and it's going to be really, really intense. So I think it's up for grabs right now. And people ask me, well, you must know who's going to win. I don't know who's going to win. This could go either way, but I do agree the election will be largely determined on whether the economy looks like it's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. If Americans think the economy is moving in the wrong direction over the next 5 months, Romney will win. If the Americans think it's moving in the right direction, Obama will win. Unless there's a war or something like that, which is a wild card. But short of that, I think it'll be the economy. And the thing is, in this new age of social media and Twitter and all this, you get instant feedback. So when I ask a tough question to Mitt Romney, the Republicans all say, well, you're a liberal Democrat, we hate you. And then when I ask a tough question to President Obama, oh, you're a Republican, conservative, and we hate you. And so, as long as I'm getting criticism like that from both sides, I feel I'm sort of doing my job. Take a look at this latest poll that just came out today. It's very close. It's neck and neck. Obama's slightly ahead in Ohio. These guys are going to be fighting each other in Ohio, in Florida, in Virginia. Northern Virginia, where so many people have moved over the past 20 years, is much more moderate and liberal than Southern Virginia, for example. And Obama carried Virginia by 6 points 4 years ago. It's going to be a fight, but Virginia is going to be critically important. And I think North Carolina, I don't think Obama's going to win. I don't think North Carolina, he won barely 4 years ago. I don't think he's going to win it this time. But he's going to need Colorado, which he won, Nevada, which he won, New Mexico, which he won. Arizona, he didn't win because John McCain was the favorite son from Arizona. But Arizona's in play. The Hispanic vote will be critical in all 4 of those states, and Obama's way ahead with Latinos overrun.